Welcome back, everyone. It is Sunday sit-down time. We got Mizzou men's basketball's own Jarrett Sutton in the house for Sunday sit-down. Jarrett, thanks for making some time on us on a Sunday night. So I know it's a busy time of year for you right now.
Yeah, it was good to be on with you. Thanks for having me, and excited to talk about Mizzou.
Yeah, let's dive right into it. Obviously, it's an off season that Dennis Gates and company needed to make some changes for in order to have the progress they want to see next season. I'd say they have a pretty good start here in bringing in some of the recruits they have. What are your overall thoughts on, what Dennis Gates has been able to do, at least early in the off season here?
Yeah, I think he's addressing areas of need, just from a team perspective, and addressing areas they really lacked in last season, rebounding for one, defensive versatility, size and athleticism, shot making, and then point guard play. I think those are all areas of need, and they're addressing that. And I think the biggest thing really for me is keeping the recruiting class intact. That was something I really wanted to watch for as the season ended. He's kept that intact. He's got an exciting freshman class coming in. And then you pair that with some of the returners that will be back, that I'm excited about, and see how they fare this summer and improving their overall games. And then obviously the transfer portal, it's free agency in college basketball now as we know it, but they're able to address some good areas, shooting, size, and then Mark Mitchell probably highlights the portal class for Mizzou this offseason. I've followed him for years. Great athlete. He's going to fit right in terms of the SEC, and will be a really good piece to add defensively and on the glass for Dennis Gates.
To add a player like a Mark Mitchell, you kind of touched on it. How big is that, momentum-wise, to obviously improve on the season they had last year?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, McDonald's All-American, talking about a player that was on an Elite Eight team at Duke, got better as the season went along towards the second half of the year. Obviously, athleticism, strength, he can guard everywhere on the floor, and he's an impact on the glass. He's great, I think, for Dennis Gates' system, which is very up-tempo, fast-paced, playing in transition. This is a high-motor, high-energy big man. It's probably a starting four. You might be able to play some five with him, so it allows Coach Gates to have some versatility defensively. But what he brings from a toughness standpoint, how he'll fit into the league, in terms of Mizzou not winning an SEC game last year, Mark Mitchell allows you to be more competitive, especially in areas that Mizzou just had to address and had to identify in terms of the defensive side of the ball and the rebounding piece. And they just got more athletic, adding a guy like Mark Mitchell, who still has a ton of upside too. I think a lot made of his season last year, just not really a role for him that fit at Duke. And it's a much better situation for him all in all, going to Mizzou, and he'll be a focal point of this team moving forward.
Well, obviously this recruiting class, much touted. People are excited about the guys that are coming in. What do you think it says about Coach Gates that he's been able to keep this recruiting class intact? That's key, especially after you mentioned not winning in a SEC game last season.
Yeah, he's bringing talent. They're going to be young. With young talent, it depends on how quick they can adjust and adapt to the college game. And our Boateng headlines the class for me. I think he's a guy that can play right away. Really like Marcus Allen in terms of his ability to defend, a versatile wing, known for being kind of a defensive stopper, something Mizzou really didn't have last year. Now he's going to be a freshman, so we'll kind of see how that plays out. I like T.O. Barrett too, a point guard. Who's very smart and can make shots too on top of it. He'll be able to look up to Tony Perkins, who they got in the transfer portal from Iowa at that point guard position. It's something Coach Gates did a couple years back in terms of bringing in older, experienced guards in the portal. Tony's from a good league in the Big Ten, and it's going to be a different situation for him too in terms of system and his ability to play the point guard position, be able to create for others while also being a scorer. So you look at, what these freshmen are going to be able to look up to. Peyton Marshall's another big man that's really made growth over the last year. He's gotten his body in better shape, and I feel good about him, coming to Mizzou and being able to play at the level that, Coach Gates wants to play at, and that is up-tempo. That is more of a faster pace. And you got to be in tip-top conditioning. I feel like I'm speaking to our teams with Mike Anderson to play that type of pace. You got to be in great shape. So all in all, I'm excited for the freshman class. I'm also excited for some of the returners and the players that they have kept that I think can develop and grow and still help this team. And definitely guys that have been around, that understand the expectations, that understand the culture, and that's something Dennis Gates is always going to rest his laurels on, is the culture and that player retention, bringing guys to the program and ultimately trying to improve them and have Mizzou basketball back to where we know it can be.
Well, we see that how much can change in one offseason. I mean, if you take a look around the SEC, I feel like it's been kind of wild. You see Coach Cal going to Arkansas. You see all this different stuff. But what's your takeaway of this offseason we've seen for SEC hoops so far?
Yeah, it's been wild. I mean, the Calipari situation kind of headlines it, especially, with what's taken place with Kentucky and hiring Coach Pope from BYU, what they're doing in the transfer portal because of what that roster looked like after Calipari left, what Arkansas's roster looked like when they had nobody, as Eric Musselman leaves for USC. Coach Muss leaving the SEC was another, I think that kind of kick-started, the domino effect, and that's what sometimes the coaching carousel can do. When one leaves, it starts to kind of shift the landscape of college basketball, and the SEC was definitely touched in that area. You look at, Alabama, a team that's kind of reloaded. They got some guys in the NBA draft combine that maintain their eligibility. We'll see what happens at Auburn with what they're trying to build, with Johnny Broome leaving, Aiden Holloway in the transfer portal. There's just a lot of guys that are kind of venturing around college basketball with their names in the portal. That's today's college basketball. I feel like every team in every league has kind of been touched with that. I think Mizzou's added a lot of pieces to hopefully make themselves a little bit more competitive in the landscape of the SEC. But you look at the leagues around college basketball where the SEC fits into this. The Big 12, the Big 10, and then ultimately the Big East, because the Big East is the top dog with UConn as the national champion. The Big East should have more teams in the NCAA tournament. It is a dominant league, and how does the SEC compete in that league? And that is to find balance within the league with several teams. So I think the coaching changes are the biggest part of the offseason for the SEC. I'm curious to see how Coach Pope, fares at Kentucky. I think that's my number one thing to look for. And then, getting used to John Calipari at Arkansas in the red, it's going to take some time for me. But, definitely a wild offseason, as it always is. And it feels like just every day there's something, whether it be a player in the portal or, a couple weeks back with the coaching, circles and now assistants going to different jobs. It has definitely been a unique offseason, but it's just kind of the state of college basketball right now.
Going to be interesting to see Coach Cal in that red. Well, I appreciate you making some time. We have a long off season to still watch all that, but thank you for making some time with us, Jarrett.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For the rest of you guys, we'll be right back after the break.